All right, everybody, buckle up, because this time on the deep dive, we're heading straight into the world of African tech.
And we're diving deep.
Yeah, no kidding. Forget your average app launch. This is about Texonnect, and let me tell you, it's a whole different ballgame.
It's big, really making waves.
That's what caught our attention, right? We're talking research papers, articles, even insider accounts. We're not just skimming the surface here. We're going deep on this one.
Absolutely. And believe me, it's worth it.
So what's the big deal with tech?
Awesome. Good day and welcome to Texonnect Voices. Nana Adjoa, how you doing today?
I'm good. It's Friday, so I'm happy.
Friday, you're happy, but I hear
Yes.
you're
Yes, very busy, but at least it's a Friday, so
so
it's all coming to an end, hopefully.
sounds good. Sounds good. So for those joining us on Texonnect, this is Texonnect Voices, and this is a special segment we're having. On Texonnect Voices, we try to cover mostly, we have identified 32 areas in the tech ecosystem, and we've been covering quite a bit of it, and soon we'll be covering AI. However, a lot of conversations have been coming on about AI with the other segments we've covered. And we had a special session with legendary CK Bruce, and part of the conversations that came up was around AI and the dangers of not being on board AI, which triggered a subsequent conversation that we needed to have. So for those of you who were on the live segment, you may remember that we did mention that we were going to be inviting a seasoned lawyer to talk about the legal implications of artificial intelligence. And for that, we have a very special guest here. And she's here to take any concerns or any curiosity you have to bear. So we have here Nana Adjoa Adobea Khartey, who's a lawyer, telecommunications policy expert, and corporate governance professional. And she currently serves as the secretary to the National Communications Authority, NCA. Now, most of you will probably remember that in the live segment, we did have Dr. Albert Inchubosiaku, whose book he just released. And in that book, we also talked about the fact that he will be speaking further on the issue of cybersecurity and the 10 commandments coming from his book of roping out or rolling into any country a cybersecurity framework. I'm sure maybe Nana Adjoa may touch on that later. So as you can see, the ecosystem is connected, and we're looking forward to having a great time with a seasoned lawyer. She has a rich background in both law and technology and has made significant contributions to the telecommunications and mining sectors. She's a board member of the Institute of ICT Professionals of Ghana and the Street Children Empowerment Foundation. And she founded the Social Bridge, on an NGO focused on social interventions. Her legal expertise spans corporate law, telecommunications policy, mining law, and intellectual property. And she has advised both international and local clients and has worked with top law firms in Ghana, including Kulendi at Law and JLD and MB Legal Consultancy. Now, you'll remember that one of the things that CK kept stressing on in the live segment was the importance of corporate governance, which you can see from her profile that Nana Adjoa is quite well versed in. So welcome, Nana Adjoa, to the program Texonnect Voices.
Thank you, Papa. Thank you.
Wonderful.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It is a pleasure to have you. And I hope you brought your thinking cap on, because we have some very serious questions that we need addressed.
Looking forward to it.
Wonderful. So let's ask a basic general question. What has been your interface or engagement with artificial intelligence so far?
Okay, so I've been privileged because of the institution I work with, and we are responsible for anything electronic communication. And now electronic communication is just not taking a phone to make phone calls, but it goes beyond that. It goes to the very heart of technological advancement. And so AI is now at the center of what we do as an institution when it comes to being a regulator. We are to create the enabling environment also for AI to thrive. So by virtue of the fact that I work at the NCA, which is under the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, AI is just up my alley. And I was also lucky to attend a conference, a workshop. Actually, this was a training and a course. Let me make it, it's a course actually, in AI at UC Berkeley 2 months ago, which also widened my perspective on artificial intelligence. I'm also a member of the International Bar Association's Communications Committee. I'm an officer of the committee. I am the liaison with the Africa Regional Forum. So AI, we discuss AI also at the International Bar Association conferences. And as an officer of a committee, AI plays an important role in communication. And as such, AI is becoming part of what I do.
Interesting. And I'm noticing the many hats and the many credentials that you hold. I believe that's to our benefit on this program. So could you provide a brief overview based on your experience on how AI is currently intersecting with the legal field? What are the primary legal implications of AI that we should be aware of?
So there are two ways to look at that. There's the influence of AI on the law, and then how the law is going to be situated, so the influence of AI on law and the influence of law or the impact or the repercussions of the law on AI. So they're actually two different fields. But the first one, that's us as lawyers, as legal practitioners, embracing AI in order for it to ensure that our workflows are better, to make our workflows more efficient, to make our work as lawyers more effective. This comes from drafting of contracts, to legal research, to data analysis in general, to even management of our cases. That's particularly for lawyers who go to court, who engage in litigation. So that's where AI impacts the legal industry. Then we come to the law in AI. That is how the law is going to be used to govern AI or to influence AI. So with regards to that, there's so many implications. AI is intelligence. It goes beyond automation, which is just data processing or a scientific way of analyzing, of using data in order to provide more efficient processes. When it comes to AI, it's intelligence. There's machine-to-machine learning. There's an incremental, or should I say, practical analysis is predictive. Predictive analysis based on data. And with the use of this, we get into a sphere where through the analysis of so many data sets, these language learning models are able to predict and do things that usually it's a human being that does. Now AI can write books, AI can compose songs, AI can make an argument in court, AI can draft contracts. So when we come to that, what is the limit? Where does liability begin? Where does liability stop? Who owns what? Who created it? If AI, based on being trained on data sets, now is able to write a book, who owns the book? Is it me that I provided the information? Is it the one who actually built the AI model? Or is it just the person who put in the prompt that led to the production of that? These are all questions that we as Ghana, we as Africa, and then we as a global unit that's all world over are still thinking and trying to wrap our heads around what AI does to the traditional legal sphere of intellectual property, particularly, and to liability. So it's something that both both work hand in hand, both impact each other, and we are all waiting to find our feet.
Wow, is it me or is the world just getting crazier and crazier? You know, as part of our segments, we're going to be talking about legal tech, which is legal technology. And I want to assure the audience that we're not there yet. But obviously, if we're talking about the legal implications of AI, we're definitely hitting the fringes of that. So stay tuned for when we actually have a conversation around legal technology. But you have made us appreciate the fact that AI is definitely changing the entire world of how you engage in law. And if we're going to be doing things the way we were doing things yesterday, then good luck to us in paying judgment, debt, and so forth and so on. So I hope we're all shaping up and we're all learning. And from what you're sharing with us, obviously that workshop or that training did bear some fruits because you seem to have quite an insight into the area. So regulating AI, what challenges do lawmakers face in regulating AI, and are current legal framework sufficient to address these challenges?
So with this, there's so many approaches, and different countries have taken different approaches. So some say the existing frameworks are actually enough to regulate AI, and that's the US mindset or the US philosophy. So with the US, what they do is take a more decentralized approach to regulating AI. And what has been done is to use the traditional law or the existing legal tools to govern AI. So from the US's standpoint, for instance, when it comes to an AI tool, the law says that you should not defraud someone, or the law states that for something to be protected, it should be original. So let's use these existing laws to still govern AI as we still keep an eye on it and see how far it can go. And it's actually going really far. I'm sure we'll talk about AI agents soon, and that's another animal that is can become a beast if we don't keep an eye on it. So that's the US's philosophy, using a more decentralized approach. Some of the states have put in place more robust, particularly in California, for instance. The governor has put in place some regulatory frameworks to ensure that to cure the menace of deep fakes and the likes. However, when it comes to America as a country, the national laws there are no national laws in place to govern AI because the philosophy is that the existing laws are enough. And we just need to place AI within the application of those existing laws. However, when it comes to the EU, it's a different approach. So the EU's approach is that let's categorize what this AI can do. And those that are high risk, let's regulate. So then now there's the EU AI Act that was actually passed this year. And it has categorized from high risk to low risk. And each has its own compliance and transparency protocols and rules within which it is governed. So that's the approach. If you ask me what we should do in Ghana or the African approach, I would say a hybrid is good. We don't want to stifle innovation. So overregulating might not be helpful. But we also need to understand that the existing laws, particularly ours, cannot regulate AI. And that is why
when we're dealing with fraud and 419, still as if it's a basic 419 case and misdiagnosing every day.
Yeah, so we need to keep an eye on AI. I know there's an AI policy in the works, and I would encourage listeners to, pop into the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization, try to get involved in the drafting of this AI policy. Write articles that are published, write articles even on your LinkedIn, your Facebook, contributing to what you think our AI policy, our AI legal framework should look like.
Interesting. Let's quickly segue into ethics and accountability. In situations where AI systems make decisions Examples are healthcare or criminal justice in some countries. Who should be held accountable when things go wrong?
So we still don't know the answer. That's the honest truth. And it's not just Ghana, throughout the world. We're still grappling with the fact that, is it the person who I said put in the prompt? So if it's health, even though you can conduct a surgery remotely, where the surgeon is on the other side controlling a robot or using prompts to put in place to give instructions to, or prompts, yes, putting prompts in an AI tool, which will then translate into a surgical procedure some 5,000 miles away. However, who is liable if the surgery goes wrong? Is it the person who created the AI tool? Is it the person who put in the prompt? Is it even the person who is even responsible for the hardware that is conducting the surgery? We are still not there as to who is liable. And there are even cases in courts as to liability issues. So we're keeping an eye on the US particularly to find out how some of these cases pan out. And then I'm sure it will form precedent for how we should treat these AI tools. And particularly where we're getting to where we're using AI agents. So there will be a point in time where you would ask you can ask an AI tool that, okay, you know what? I'm tired and I want to travel to a place that has a beach, that has good food, good drinks, and good hangouts. Plan everything for me. And the AI agent will go ahead to plan the trip, pay for the trip, book your flight, book your hotel, book everything, and make payments. And all you need to do is show up at the airport and your itinerary is planned for you. I'm told that there are even people who are using AI agents to manage their investments. So instead of, paying a broker to manage their investments, now there are AI agents. It's still in the beta phase, it's still in the testing phase, but the tech geniuses have started using these AI agents to even manage their finances. And imagine how that would be, because who conducts the insider trading? For instance, if now it's the AI agent who took the decision.
Based on some credible data.
Exactly, based on credible data. So it's scary, but we need to rein in AI, but we also need it because AI, there's a statement I read that I love. AI takes the robot out of the human, and it's true. We are going to get the chance to focus on more important things, think, empathize, understand human beings, whilst AI does the rest for us. So it's a good place to be.
Need to start thinking more and stepping our game up and trading ourselves.
Exactly. We need to reskill. We need to reskill and upskill and ensure that we certainly live up to what the potential that AI has.
Let's talk about data privacy and security. How does the use of AI impact data privacy laws, and what should organizations do to ensure compliance with those regulations? Taking in mind that just data privacy is not enough. These days, we're thinking data ethics as a whole.
All right. So we have something called ethical or responsible AI that is it's quite accepted now. When it comes to the big companies, the big tech giants, they have that in mind. So what they do is that they actually appoint a responsible AI officer who ensures that these AI tools that are being used ethically. So even when Google or Meta is introducing a product, I know that they have responsible AI officers who need to give it, should I say, to sign off on it before it's introduced onto the market. And that's where we need to be. we need to have people who are like the moral compasses in our institutions to ensure that if you are a tech company and you're deploying an AI tool, you ensure that it's responsible. You ensure that you put up the right guardrails, that's what it's called, to ensure that that tool does not, we call something in law, frolic of your own, when we were talking about employment issues. And that's what it is. AI should not go on a frolic of its own. And that's where the developer has to put in guardrails to ensure that it stays within the responsible terms or responsible bandwidth that it has been given. And that's what is going to help us. I think there was a second part of your question.
Taking into mind or taking into perspective data ethics as well. The fact that you can't necessarily mean you should.
Okay, so I think I've spoken about the ethics. Now it's left with the privacy.
Yeah.
So what it is that when you use an open source AI tool, you are giving your data to that AI tool, and usually you are allowing it to use your data to train its model to make it better, to its LLM to make it better. So we as individuals need to protect ourselves. You need to look at your privacy settings. For instance, LinkedIn has a setting that you can toggle. Now you can toggle on or off. And one of the options is to toggle off, that they use their LLM and they use your data to train the LLM. That's how you protect your privacy. When it comes to use of the likes of Meta, we are unclear as to where some of them get their data sets from. And that's the unfortunate opacity. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Opacity, right? Yes. So that's the opaqueness or the opacity that surrounds the data sets that particularly these open source data LLMs use. But we are getting there. I think regulators and the tech industry are coming together to see how best our privacy can still be protected. It's getting better, but you are really exposed. Your data is being used to train these data sets. I keep on joking that one day I'll be sitting down and I'll see a picture of myself on somebody's book cover, because they asked the AI to, just look for an African dark skinned lady with this type of hair. And of course, AI is using so many pictures, millions of pictures to generate that. So it has a bit of us, everyone in it. And sometimes that's an issue. I know that, for instance, Sarah Silverman is suing OpenAI. You know Sarah Silverman, right? The renowned comedian.
Yeah.
She also wrote a book. She's written a book, and then her book was used by one of these open source models. And somebody wrote a similar book. And she is saying that as long as it was using her data, her book, to train its LLM, yes, then her copyright has been infringed.
And can
So
she
that's
that her data was used to train it?
Well, we are all waiting for the case to come for her judgment, right? But yes, I think she can prove, she has gone beyond, I think she's been able to prove somehow that it was used to train her data.
My philosophy is that there's nothing new under the sun, and sometimes you may be actually taking from the source from which she took to write her book. And
exactly.
yet, because she published first, she would claim that it's her content when it really came from the same source. So these things are getting quite complicated, if you ask me.
It is very complicated, and that's what we need to. So that's why I'm saying that we're waiting for the US, really. When it comes to cases on intellectual property with regards to AI, we're all waiting. And it's taking years in the US. Some of the cases have not even gone past discovery phase, but we'll see. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what happens.
So this has major implications for intellectual property, basically.
Yes, exactly.
But we're not definitive as to the approach to dealing with it now.
No,
On the fringes.
We're not. Yeah. So we're waiting for the case law to advise on that, particularly from our side of the world. It's
Okay.
good to keep an eye on that.
All right. One of the things that keeps, like I said, I was talking about CK, who we engaged last week. And one of the things that keeps him up at night is the issue of bias and discrimination when it comes to AI. Many AI systems have been criticized for perpetuating biases. What legal measures can be implemented to minimize these risks?
So, yeah. I'm laughing because, you know, when we were in school, there was something called garbage in, garbage out. When we were learning, I think it was IT or something.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you remember.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's how AI functions. The data set that it's used, it's what it uses to make its intelligent analysis. AI does not manufacture from a vacuum. It's manufacturing from data. It's producing answers from data. So the data that is put in is what it uses to take the smart decisions that it's able to take. So the onus lies on us, particularly as Africans, to start putting together our data sets, to start producing our own LLMs, to start putting in place measures where we are contributing productively to these LLMs to ensure that our data also sits in there. So it's not the fault of the LLM to be biased. It is because the developer was biased. The person doing the coding was biased. So any bias or any discrimination that AI displays or comes from AI is actually a reflection of human nature as opposed to the machine's nature.
Let's talk about contract and liability issues. In industries increasingly using AI-driven contracts or autonomous systems, how do traditional concepts of liability apply?
Yes, so that also goes back to, I think, the question, what we discussed earlier.
So who do you hold responsible?
Who do you hold responsible? I know that some institutions actually tell you that do not use AI to do your work. If you do, you'll be penalized for that. And now there are actually apps. So there are AI tools that can tell you whether AI was used to do the work.
Whether it was plagiarized or not.
No, not plagiarized, just that AI did it. Because if AI doing it is not really plagiarized, because AI is creating something new out of millions of, data sets or millions of information. So millions of books and sources. So it's creating something new. As you said, there's really nothing new under the sun, right? But as to who is liable, we can't tell because we don't know the limits to where the human stops and AI can take over, where we'll say that, okay, AI created this. There was a prize that an AI generated artwork actually won. And then the person later came back to confess that he didn't, paint the work. It was actually AI generated. And these are some of the issues. Just because I put in the prompt, am I the one who drafted the contract?
The prompts also have their own creative context. You don't put in the right prompts, you don't get the right answer. So
exactly. So that's where I was going to come to. The right prompt to is a skill, right? I should also get some credit for putting in the right prompts for actually. So it's we still don't know. We still don't know. And it's so interesting. It's so exciting. And that's why AI is something to look out for. AI is something that we should all be interested in because we still don't know the lengths to which liability, for instance, is. Now, lawyers, for instance, can get away with using AI to produce their work, and you are still liable for it. Because at least in the legal field, we do not recognize you, excluding yourself from liability and blaming AI. There are so many tech tools that can help you even draft your written submission in court. from scratch. But you as the lawyer are still liable for the contracts. You are still liable for the documentation. As I said, however, in the academic field, they don't want you to use AI. Some institutions actually would write in the terms and conditions that do not use AI tools to do your work. Some schools may also want you to use AI tools, but it should be original to some extent. So it's still a gray area.
So to drill down further in this, I mean, AI in legal practice, and with AI tools being used in tasks like legal research and contract analysis, what are the legal and ethical considerations for lawyers and law firms adopting these technologies?
One, you need to ensure that you have confidentiality in place. I don't think you should go ahead and put confidential documentation in ChatGPT, for instance. If you are putting confidential information into an AI tool, it should be a closed source one that you've paid for and you have read the terms and conditions and you know for sure that your data is not going to be used to train the LLM. That's one of them. Another thing is not, as I said, garbage in, garbage out. Now with the data sets that we have, the African market is not fully, or even, I could say, not even up to 50% represented in most of these LLMs because we don't have, our data sets are not in there. So what you need to do is ensure that you are not giving a client an AI-generated contract, which the laws in Ghana do not allow for. I can give a classic example. So for instance, in Ghana, public domain, the definition of public domain is different from what it is in the US. In the US, as long as it is literally in the public domain, it's public domain. So as long as it's publicly circulated, that's what it is. But in Ghana, the definition of public domain is a bit different. And certain aspects of IP, for instance, with folklore, are still protected by law, even though it's in the public domain. So if you go and use an AI tool that most likely is not, built in Ghana, if you use ChatGPT to draft a contract and someone is using an Adinkra symbol, for instance, in as their logo, you would say that, okay, so you can use the logo and because it's in the public domain. But in Ghana, no, you actually have to go to the National Folklore Board for permission to use that Adinkra symbol.
Interesting. We've been educated there. So my last question for you here is, from your perspective, what should African governments and legal professionals prioritize to ensure AI is developed and used in ways that are ethical, equitable, and beneficial for society?
One, we should learn from each other. I think we need to.
You mean across the region?
Across the region and across the continent. I mean, is that across the continent? No, not across the continent. Across the globe. Okay. So we need to ensure that we learn from what other countries are doing. As I said, now the EU as a bloc has the EU AI Act. We need to keep an eye on the implementation and how that's going to roll out. We need to look at the US approach. We need to look at what China is doing or what other countries in Asia are doing. And then in Africa too, there are countries like Rwanda and the likes who are also, trying to regulate the AI space. So we need to look at that. That's one for the government. Two, we need to encourage homegrown AI tools. So we need to ensure that we provide the right ecosystem in order to allow for innovators to innovate and create the right AI tools, having local needs, local pain points in mind. We also need to get involved as tech entrepreneurs. I call tech entrepreneurs techpreneurs. We also need to, think through what we want to see as our AI ecosystem and start putting it out there, posting on social media, posting and writing articles, writing position papers, submitting them to government to advise on how our AI policy should be. So these are a few points that I think we need, and participate in conferences. I was very happy when we had this successful 3I summit by the Bank of Ghana. That was bringing individuals together to discuss things that matter to us as Africans. And sometimes attending these international conferences also opens up your mind and gives you a wider perspective of what countries are doing. And we learn from their mistakes and we can do it better. We learn from their mistakes, we adapt it to our cultural setting, our local setting, and then we make a plan, a policy, a law that is right and fit for purpose.
Thank you very much for that, Adjoa. We will definitely be engaging Kwame Opon, who was behind the 3 Africa Summit, very soon. So you can look out for that episode of FinTech as well. And thanks for the insight. You've given us quite a bit to mull on. We're definitely going to be dissecting this over the next couple of weeks and coming up with questions and trends and needed conversations that need to happen to help us become a part of this conversation and these developments as your office CSA is doing, as DITA is doing, and as the overall Ministry of Communication and Digitalization is doing. So definitely the private sector needs to get on board, academia needs to get on board, CSOs need to get on board, as well as the public sector. So thank you for sharing with us today. Like I said,
thank you too. It was a pleasure.
Hold on. And yeah.
It was a pleasure. All right, great.
Hope we can count on you later as well.
Sure, I'm always available.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend, and don't forget to have fun.
See you. I will try. Bye-bye.
Bye.